We're live on the troubleshoot here. We're live, so
Ready to go ahead and start. Doesn't look like we're live.
yeah, still troubleshooting.
It's 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item will be roll call.
Mr. Brown? Here. Mr. Buckley? Back, please. Mr. Fritz?
Present.
Mr. Durkee?
Here.
Mr. Meehan?
Here.
And Mr. Mann? Here. We also have several attendees by video. Chief Dirk, CFO Report, Assistant Chief Pennington, Dr. Gustafson, and Representative with the Soul.
Representative who?
With the Soul.
Put the rest records. I would take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Everyone's had a chance to look over the minutes from the last meeting. If there are no additions or corrections, they'll stand approved as presented. Any public comments sent in, Ryan?
No, nothing as of last time I checked.
Officers report, CFO report.
Good evening. So my report starts on page 3. As you can see, sales tax that we received in September was up quite a bit over previous years. It's up about 18% for the month, and we're 2% above last year at this time. Page 4 is the bank balances. This was as of last Thursday. And the cash reserve chart. Anybody have any questions on that? Page 5 is the cash reserve analysis. It's up a little bit over last meeting. And then pages 6 through 8 are the check register. Did anybody have any questions on any of that?
Mrs. Lurie?
Yes.
I noticed that maybe something's changed on this. The board members' compensation was previously on, oh, there you go, was previously on the account, checking account register, and it's no longer on there. Was there some procedural change or something?
Yeah, we went to direct deposit.
Okay, and so where is that shown on any other report?
So it'll show as Intuit, and it's not on this one. It'll be on the next one because it came out on Friday. So it'll show QuickBooks payroll service just like our regular payroll does. It's just a smaller one, and it'll be once a month.
And so we don't look at overall payroll on an ongoing basis, other than you and the treasurer, right?
There's actually 3 board members sign off on the board payroll.
Okay, all right. Is there any other changes on this that was done for direct deposit or anything like that? That's the only difference?
Yeah, we changed that when all of this pandemic stuff started to make it easier to get everybody's stuff done, to do it remotely. Any other questions on the check register? So page 9 is actually replaced by the packet that Ryan brought over, the AP aging summary. That Mutual of Omaha doesn't come out until later in the month. I was able to get that this week. So that increased the amount of bills. The total is $83,454.93. And then the details are pages 10 through 11. Any questions on any of those bills? Okay, if not, the rest of the information I put in there from EMSMC, that's our new billing company. These are the monthly reports that they give us. So the first one is the whole district as a whole. And then the second one is Pettis County transports. And the third one is Windsor transports. So that's just kind of just for your information to see what kind of information we're getting. We also have an online login with dashboards that we can see all kinds of information on a daily basis in real time. But I just wanted you guys to have an idea of what kind of reporting we're getting from them. And if there's no other questions, that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? If not, I will take a motion to pay the outstanding bills.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The Chief's report.
Okay, I'm having a little lag issue with my video, so hopefully you're getting my audio okay. Can somebody verify that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Good to see everybody. I've got a fairly short report tonight. I don't know if anybody's got any questions, but I'll go through it just kind of line by line here. We're still waiting on the city to do some repairs to the main water supply line. They've got a little stopgap measure out there. At least they did at the end of last week. I don't believe they've been out Monday or Tuesday this week, but I'm up in Jefferson City doing some evaluator training program up here, which I'll report to the board on that next time when I have complete information. The interior around the windows and the hallway back by the crew quarters has got some water damage. The way it looks is some of the sealant around those windows and between the windows even was having issues. Dugan's Glass was going to be coming out and evaluating that problem, but I haven't heard out of them yet. So we're waiting on some estimate and or see if they can figure out what's wrong. My feeling, since we've had problems before, is it's probably some sealant either around the windows or between the windows where it's just weathered down. And it really only, I think, gets into the building when we have a good gully washer. So we're getting that looked at. Station 5 in Windsor, the washer and dryer have been delivered down there that the Windsor board bought for us. They're going to be installed in the bay out there so the crews can decon their clothing items before having to go into the crew quarters. So that'll be nice. Their bathroom is completely repaired down there. They lucked out. It didn't get too far into the building, so they were just able to replace some flooring, some baseboard, and reuse the sink and toilet and all that stuff down there. So Windsor Ambulance District Board took care of those repairs. Operations, just a quick COVID update. As everybody's probably heard, we've got a little bit of a bloom there in Pettis County. Numbers are definitely up this month quite a bit. I think we've got around 170 plus active cases. Our infection control procedures are working well. It would be, in optimal circumstances, we'd have some UV lights that could take care of this a little better and a little more efficiently in the ambulances, as well as some HVAC scrubbers. But as far as our actual crews PPE procedures, they're working well. I know that the crews are doing just an amazing job, considering they've got to pretty much suit up on every patient they come into contact with, as well as we're having many more COVID positive contacts come down the wire here. So we are tracking each of those. The battalion chiefs enter an email into a specialty email account we've Ryan has set up for us so that we can go back and track and do any contact tracing should we get any positive results from suspected patients as well as known positive cases are tracked that way too. So that's working out really well. The N95 issue, we're still a little thin on them. EMA and Sedalia is taking orders for the state. However, you know, we get what we can get right now. We're not out. We're what I would call thin. We're not great, but we're not terrible. So everything else is looking pretty good though. As far as staffing, I wanted to let the board know that 2 of our EMTs have obtained their paramedic license, Donnie Hayworth and Matt Seehey, and I believe they were both let off of their orientation, their transition orientation from EMT to paramedic very recently. They're both doing great. They're both fabulous employees. So I wanted to let the board know about that and congratulate those guys. As well, we've had a paramedic return. It's always good. I call it the boomerang effect because people like PCAD. They come back. Svetlana Shevchenko and Chris Palmer are both returning. Actually, they're coming back to PRN status after some leave of absences. So we welcome them back. Good to have them. Education, as I said, we're up here in Jeff City right now. Justin and I are up here taking the administrative side of what's called the field training evaluation program. And again, I'll tell the board a little bit more about that when I get back and get through the program. So so far it's going very well. We're holding that. That's being hosted by Cole County and at the Sheriff's Department up here in Jeff City. EMT classes are still going fine. They are scheduled to be over in early October. So we've just got a few classes left and we'll be wrapping that up. And those guys will be testing out sometime this fall, pretty soon. Other than that, I do not have any other items on my report unless anybody's got any questions. If you'll notice, by the way, there's another agenda item, but I took because we're a little short on trucks and I couldn't guarantee that we could actually get any equipment over there for you guys to look at. The next page is just the 2 types of ventilators we currently have. And that's what's on that next page, so you'll see. Is there any questions?
Questions for the chief? Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I don't know, Chief, so can I go back and ask Mrs. Goodwin a question?
Sure.
I can't tell if she's doing it or not.
Jamie?
Yes.
Oh, she's there. Excuse me, I forgot to ask this question, but back on page 10, we've got EMS Management and Consultants. That's our new billing, medical billing company, is that correct?
Correct.
Good, okay. And so, but it's just a general question. That's been happening for, what, 2 months now or so? Is that going okay?
Yep, it's going well. We meet with them every Wednesday. We have a meeting to go over any concerns or questions or anything. So every week we add a little bit more they add a little bit more to our dashboards and go through more information on their side. And then we cover things that have come up over that week. But yeah, it's been going pretty well.
Because they indicated early on that they would, have better reports available to you, and so all of that's happening as they promised, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can log in real time and look up anything we need to look at. It's all there for us.
Good. Good. Thank you.
Medical Director's Report.
Good evening. Oops. Yeah, good
Okay.
evening. I wasn't sure if I was muted or not, but I'm open. Things are going well. In spite of the COVID increases, our crews are doing fine. I went back and looked at our helicopter utilization, and we had 4 flights in August, and we've had 4 in September up to this point. And by and large, they're related to trauma victims. And at the SAC meeting today, there is a great deal of interest since the state has repealed the helmet law. We're going to be looking at statewide information on severity of motorcycle accident victims. And hopefully, well, everybody knows we call them organ donors, but I'll be looking at those for here in the county as we go forward to see how that's going. I know there was a lot of public, and the reason the law was repealed was because of public sentiment and outcry. And other states around us have either not had or have rescinded helmet laws. So it remains to be seen how our folks are going to do. With the increase in motor vehicle crash trauma, I anticipate that at some point we're going to see an increase in motorcycle victim crashes as well. Eric already touched on the COVID situation, so there's nothing really more to add to that at the present time. We've been seeing spikes in Johnson County because of the university getting back in session, and so I'm not surprised that there's. I would imagine that some of our jump is also related to the schools resuming activity. So we'll try to keep you posted on that as it goes forward. Any other questions for me in particular? All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Thank
Doctor.
you. Committee reports. Strategic Planning Committee has a meeting planned for the 29th of September. So hopefully here in the next couple of meetings, we'll have an outline to present to the board. We want unfinished business, 16th Street property discussion. That's on page 35. Copy of the bid proposal that they prepared to send out.
Where would we post this? Run the ad in the newspaper, or how does that, how would we do it? Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
This will be posted in Democrat as an RFP, as we always do RFP. And then as well, I believe it would be wise for us to send out to all members of our local board of realtors. Any of us can obtain addresses of that. I don't know if that would be a proper communication as well. I think the word will travel fairly fast. I don't know. But it would be nice if we did have a master list, we could contact every office.
Are you doing that with just local kind of?
No, it's, the only requirement that I put on here is that they have a valid Missouri realtor license. So I mean, that can open up anybody's state of Missouri. So, if you all wish to reach further beyond Sedalia for professional services of the realtor of the nature outside our community, we can certainly round up some other periodicals so we can get this in. So it kind of depends on what we get and what the board's real desire is. So.
I guess we can put it out like we normally do. We can see what proposals we get and those are satisfactory. We can widen our scope then. Do we need a motion to approve this proposal, Ryan? Yeah. motion?
I would so move. I mean, I brought it up at the last meeting.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Move on to new business. Ventilator purchase. I guess, Eric, you want to lead us through that?
Sure. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I don't know if Jamie does. Jamie, do you want to talk about any of the CARES Act stuff or?
Sure. So late last week, we got notice that we received $1,096,319.14 from the Pettis County CARES Fund, and we had asked for reimbursement for payroll, and we're pleasantly surprised. We didn't expect to have that amount reimbursed. But what we had been looking at was some equipment we need to deal with this pandemic. Like Eric mentioned earlier, air scrubbers, UV lights and things. You have a list there on page 39. And then you also have an updated list in that stuff Ryan gave you. So ventilators was one of the number one things that Eric and the rest of the operational staff thought we needed. Eric, do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. The ventilators we're looking at, what we currently have, like I said, is on that page right after my report. I think that is page 34, if my eyes don't deceive me. What we did is we originally bought that ventilator on the left, saved a little bit of money on it, but that ventilator is kind of meant more for long-term use, like a wheelchair bound. The person that comes to mind, the iconic figure comes to mind is Christopher Reeve type thing, somebody who's going to be on a vet for a very long time. But it did have a couple of transport in a hospital setting. So we've been using it on about half of our trucks for most of the duration of PCAD. We went with the Allieds the last time we did an event purchase. That's the one on the right there. And they're kind of a workhorse vent, but the thing about ventilators and putting people on ventilators is there's two main things we do. One of them, you gentlemen may be familiar with people who are on BiPAP or CPAP at home. BiPAP gives puffs of air where CPAP is just a constant thing. Those are triggered by breaths people take. So if you breathe in, it senses that and assists with some extra pressure. The problems we've had with both of these vents is, number one, the quality is not the greatest. Number two, they're really not meant for rugged use in EMS. They're not optimal for field use, and the triggers have caused some real problems. We used to completely paralyze patients and sedate them and do every bit of the breathing for them. In the past, probably 5 or 6 years, there's been a big focus on allowing patients to instigate their own breathing, and therefore the triggers have become really important. Neither of the vents we have are really great with them. So we end up having to fiddle with vent circuits and fiddle with CPAP and BiPAP masks. And one of the reasons this is at the very top of the list for COVID patients is to allow our crews to not have to be up close and personal in that patient's face. What pretty much the industry standard is the Zoll now. It's called a Z-Vent, and I believe their rep is here with us tonight. Is he online still?
Yes, sir, I am.
Would you like to give our board a short spiel if that's okay with the board?
Yeah.
Absolutely. As long as it's okay with the board, I'd be happy to.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, I'm going to put you guys on video so you guys can get a view of what I'm talking about on the device. Hopefully it works. Let me see. Okay. So I got to flip my camera around. I apologize. I'm not good at this stuff. can't get my video to switch over right now. So what the Zoll's event is it is the military FEMA search and rescue main vent that the government chooses to use. The reason behind it is it's designed for the COVID patients. It is one of the very few vents on the market that can actually protect the patient and the providers by utilizing filter placement on the device. It's under 9 pounds. It's military grade, so it does take a beating, but it's designed to go from, as Chief was saying, those patients that need CPAP all the way up to those really critical sick ICU transport patients. It has every mode that the medics will need to transport the least injured patient up to the most critical respiratory patient. It also requires no battery swaps. The circuits are about $14 a piece. And when we're talking COVID, the other shortage a lot of people don't talk about is that come fall, if this does take off again, like we saw in spring, is the oxygen consumption and being able to get oxygen. Our device uses 75% less oxygen than any of our competitors.
Oh, did we lose you?
No, I'm here still. I just was seeing if anybody had any questions.
Are there any questions?
There was one other thing I wanted to point out in asking, for some of these funds to be directed towards that, is that this is probably the single most invasive piece of equipment that we use. If we're going to have problems related to patient care, short of medication errors, ventilation problems can be disastrous for critical care patients, like Eric was saying there. The biggest problem we have in training new employees is the fact that we do have two different kinds of vents. So I think Dr. Gus would probably agree with me when I say, as far as patient safety is concerned, not only is the COVID a bonus from this, but the actual operation of a single vent. It also interfaces, if I understand, Eric, and stop me if I'm wrong here, but I believe it interfaces with our pulse oximeter units, which are the little probes they put on your finger to measure your oxygen saturation of your blood. It interfaces with our existing Massimo connectors, which are not cheap, and they're on our LifePak 15 monitors. So we've got equipment integration. Everything we need is on the main screen of those. And there is a real-time waveform display, which will actually take you through any kind of potential problems just by looking at a waveform. So it's a far superior vent to what we have. But I just wanted to throw that patient safety issue in there. So that's all I had.
Do you mind if I interject real fast, Chief?
Not at all. Not at all.
So talking about usability, right? You guys currently are using two devices. The HTC 70, which is Newport, is a home transport vent. It's made for those convalescent patients. The Allied AHP 300 is basic. It's a good vent, but it doesn't give you those features as Chief was talking about. So you're learning two very, very difficult vents. You have a home transport vent with a ton of bells and whistles, and you go to more of a basic transport vent. And none of them really, to operate a ventilator, you have to be able to operate muscle memory at many times. So this device is the easiest to use on the market. And when we talk about patient safety, if the patient starts to throw an alarm on our device, it's going to tell the providers 5 or 6 reasons that specific alarm is going off. And it will help give them prompts on screen to troubleshoot the alarm so that the patient is being properly ventilated in an adequate amount of time and not a lot of time fighting just a high pressure or low pressure beeping alarm at them during transport.
All right. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate the information.
Welcome, Chief. Thank you guys for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thanks.
Thank you. There was some questions, John.
A real quick one to follow up. We were talking about item number 1 and 1 only, correct? And these are the two units that we currently have.
Yes.
And they're not the same, which is pretty apparent there. So But that's the only thing we'll talk about is that number one item, the
Yes.
ventilators.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure so I was understanding that correctly. But my questions go back to Jamie in regards to the CARE Act.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I can see it now, Mrs. Levine, so I know you're there. I appreciate you sharing this CARES Act reimbursement application with us, and I found it just very exciting reading. In the very early parts of this, where qualifying necessary expenditures incurred during the public health emergency with respect to the coronavirus disease 2019 necessary expenditures. And something that jumped out at me, on page 7 of that, when we actually applied for it, it's for payroll expenses for public safety, public health, healthcare, human services, and similar employees whose services are substantially dedicated to mitigating or responding to the COVID-19 public health emergency. And then I listened to that real exciting, piece, communication, phone communication, whatever it was. And they said, well, it doesn't have to, although our services weren't completely new expenses for mitigating this, we're okay with that simply because we are an EMS, right?
Correct,
Okay, so
correct.
it was okay to file. So first of all, it was confusing to me, but yet I understand that now. So, but I didn't see anything in there of what we can spend the money on once we receive it, or if we have to spend the money at all. Is there some documentation for any of that?
We've already spent the money.
Yeah, we already spent the money on payroll, so we were reimbursed for payroll expenses.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I can't listen to both of you. So Mrs. Blueberry, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we were reimbursed for payroll, those expenses for our frontline EMS crews, their payroll. We asked for, it was over $3 million, which is what our payroll would be for the period, which I think was March, and I don't have that paperwork in front of me, but I think it was March 17th through December 30th. So that's what we asked to be reimbursed for, was those payroll expenses. So that's what we got reimbursed for, was payroll expenses. So that money can be used however we see fit at this point. Our whole goal in asking for that money was because we had this list of equipment that we needed. So that was kind of our thought process behind that.
So help me with the mechanics of that. We've got the money and that's supposed to be paying payroll. So now we have an extra $1.1 million that wasn't budgeted.
Correct.
Right, so we can spend that however we want to. Is there any restrictions to any of that?
Not as far as I'm aware of, because we were reimbursed for the payroll. Because everything that was paid out of that CARES fund was just a reimbursement for already expended funds.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Probably, my thought process was, I can see where maybe these ventilators, from what I heard tonight, which was new information to me, that's probably a COVID-related issue and that's something maybe above and beyond what we've ever had the need for before. But having almost $1.1 million of additional revenue come in, and I know we're concerned about, because we get these reports every month about having enough reserve, and right now we're at a little over 4 months in reserve. If all of this or a portion of that would apply to that, we'd actually increase that up to 2 more months or 6 months. So I guess I just want to make sure the board, my question was driven toward, do we have to spend the money? And apparently we don't. If we have a quality need for it, we than we should. But then also let's make sure that we understand too, that this might be, if the board sees the need to increase the amount of reserve we have, that also would be an opportunity to do that also. Okay, that's, I think that kind of goes over what I have to say.
Okay, good point. Are there any other questions on the ventilator purchase?
I forgot to point out that we are having quite a few vent failures. Just in the past month, we've sent 3 of them off, which they have to be boxed up. We have to get a loaner, and it's fairly long process. It takes generally about a month and a half to even 2 months to get them back. And the ventilators and a couple other items on this list are items that we're going to have to replace at some point. So I just wanted to clarify, there was an equipment list that we gave to the board of stuff that, you know, has a shelf life. Of course, everything we use has shelf life. This, I think, helps push some of that further down the road, quite a bit further down the road. I don't know if Eric's still on, but the Z vents, those vents, I anticipate, much like a lot of other equipment, would probably last about 10 years. So I'm sorry I forgot to mention that earlier, but I wanted to throw that in there. That's all I have.
Yeah, Eric, do you know on these Zolls, what type of warranty? Is there any extended type of warranty? Is there anything that would be advantageous for us to consider outside just outright ownership? And if there is, I mean, I guess we could get that gentleman that replied to us after.
Yeah.
We get that done.
So-
Yes, there is a PM. I'm sorry, Jamie's probably got the numbers in front of her, but there is a preventative maintenance program that's superior to what we have right now. Every time we send one in right now, it's around $1,200.
Yeah, on page 37 on the quote, it has the PM there, the preventative maintenance. So that's 4 years for all the units.
That's included, already included in that total price.
Correct, that's included in our total.
That's part of the 174, okay.
And that's with the trade-in on all of our existing vents. That would put the whole fleet with one kind of hopefully the Zoll vent.
Yes.
Yeah, and I did want to clarify with Eric, with Zoll, if we order those, when can we expect to get those?
Okay, yes, Jamie, thank you. Right now, if they're placed in September, we have about a 60-day lead time. We just finished up our 18,000 unit order with the Health and Human Services during the Defense Production Act when COVID hit. So we're looking about 60 days. That timeline is fluid. It can be sooner, but we're looking at a minimum as of now, 60 days.
Okay, thank you.
Is it safe to assume that we don't have to send anything in until we get them as far as the trade-in? We're not going to be without vents, I'm guessing.
No. So to answer the question about the warranty to the board in that, Chief, is it comes with a factory 1-year warranty. So within a year, if anything happens, minus the batteries or power cords are typically a 90-day to 130-day warranty just because of the electronic components of it. But if anything should happen to the vent, we send a free loaner out that day. So your crews and your services are never without a ventilator. And then we only take the trades once the vents have shipped to you guys. Now that worry-free and that preventive maintenance package, I know I had sent 2 quotes over. The preventive maintenance package allows these vents to be properly maintained by Zoll. We don't just check the pressure on it, check your battery, turn it on, turn it off. It goes through about an hour to an hour and a half test to test every part of that ventilator. And it will tell you if something is getting ready to fail. And that's the big thing about the PM plan. And then we have the worry-free that basically is a warranty extension from that 1 year all the way out to 5 years factory warranty if that's what you guys wanted to do to maintain. So there is 2 different levels of coverage, but we do offer free loaners in the event the device has to go back to be repaired. You guys will not have to worry about ever being without a vent during that time.
Are there any other questions? If not, I would take a motion to approve the purchase of the ventilator.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Now, CARES Act funds disbursement plan presentation, and that would be the remaining part of that.
Yeah, so in that stuff Ryan gave you, we updated some of that stuff. So the ventilators were the first item that you guys just approved. This has changed, of course, after we got the money, and we actually do have the money in our bank account currently. We got that yesterday. So did just want to let the board know that we actually have the money in hand. So yeah, the rest of the things, Eric can talk about them a lot better than I can, but a lot of them have to do with deconning the ambulances. The air scrubbers are there's some for ambulances and there's some for the bases, to clean the air in the bases and on the ambulances. And then those UV lights, that's the big thing that changed. Our guesstimate of how much those were going to cost was a lot under what they actually cost. So we just changed the number of UV lights to 5 because they're $4,100 a piece. So that allows them to decon the ambulances. And I don't know, I can't see, is there anybody over there from, no, I don't see anybody from operations in there. I know this past weekend, the number of COVID positive cases we had was increased drastically from the number of emails we've gotten. I know they said they had to decon pretty much every other run. So there's a lot of decon happening every day, cleaning those ambulances. So that would greatly increase the efficiency of that decon. Some of the other things are for crew safety, that those PAPRs, those are respirators. Tyvek suits, again, that's to keep the crew safe, PPE. After we saw the amount of money there, we put an ambulance in there to get us back on track where we were. So I don't know if you guys want to just push this off to look at it with the strategic planning meeting we have next week, or how you guys want to go about that.
Yes.
This is just a thought here. I think we're in the middle, or still, or, well, I guess we really don't know where we're at on the COVID issue. Okay, so, but I know just enough about the air scrubbers, which is item 4, and the air scrubbers for the bases, that's item 5, and the UV lights, item 6. I know that helps clean up the ambulances when they come back, et cetera. Some of the other items in there, either I don't know enough about them, or there's some significant dollars in that. Okay, so if we would want to, I'd be happy to offer a motion to approve 4, 5, and 6. Those that we through there, because that seems to be directly COVID related. I'd be happy to put a motion for that. But that was my thought process behind that. And then, you know, the next meeting, then maybe the chief can explain to us what the Lucas device CPR is and all this stuff. Move forward.
Yeah, we were trying not to overwhelm you and make your packet be an inch thick with all of our bids and information. So
Yeah, well, and personally, I appreciate that, but again, I don't know all that I probably need to know, but I know enough about items 4, 5, and 6 that just makes good sense.
That's a Lucas device on the floor right there, that man.
no, that's not a Lucas device.
Is the Lucas device a small one?
No, we don't own any Lucas devices.
Those are automatic chest compression device for cardiac arrest.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of information on there, Mr. Meehan. And like Jimmy said, we didn't want to overwhelm the board. I agree with your assessment of the air scrubbers, of course. But yeah, there's a lot of specialized items on there as we, get through this pandemic. Who only knows how long it's going to take to get some of this stuff mitigated. But any information the board would like to have, I would be more than happy to provide in small doses or all at once or however you gentlemen want to do it.
Like small doses, because I'm not medically trained like
Exactly.
the chief is. Would you like a motion?
I would, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I would so move then that items 4, 5, and 6, air scrubbers, the ambulances, air scrubbers for the bases and the UV lights, that we purchase those with the COVID funds. And if you want to, you can put the dollar figures that's out there, but it sounds to me like Mrs. Ubering and Eric have worked hard getting some estimates, and so if we don't put an exact figure on it, then if it comes in $20 more, well, then they could do that, or something.
Yeah.
But we would purchase the number that they've got indicated here on the units there, as long as it's somewhere in the vicinity of these numbers. How about that?
Okay. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
with regard to these Tyvek suits and the respirators, are those something that you'd like to get right away?
The Tyvek suits, they'd normally just be a supply item. We put them in here just because they're a little bit more expensive than some of the other PPE that we buy. But yes, I would love to get those. The PAPRs are they're kind of a high demand item, and I just don't even know about the availability on them, to be quite honest. So I think I'd like to get more information on that before the board signs off and maybe get some better quotes and numbers for you.
Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor of buying item 4, 5, and 6, say aye. All opposed, same sign. And
Thank
maybe
you, John. Really appreciate
prior to next meeting, maybe you can get us more information on some more of these items.
it. Absolutely.
Pictures are always nice.
Yeah. We'll move on to announcements. Are there any announcements? If not, I will take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I would second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Chief, are you still on?
I am. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. I'm very happy right now. Yeah, what can I do for you?
Chief, just a general question. We have a heliport at our east facility. Is there any required lighting for that out there? I know we asked Central Missouri Electric to put the balls on the utility lines out there, and they did an excellent job of that, but is there any lights out there now, or do we need to look at something like that, or what's FAA requirements?
We'll never have an official helipad per FAA specifications. That kind of takes a designation, much like an airport does. However, it is as a designated landing zone. I've spoken with several pilots of different services, and they would like to have some lights out there. It's not a requirement. There are some different options that can be carried out individually when we land a helicopter. However, the logistics of that aren't really great, because that assumes we beat the helicopter there, and sometimes we don't. But yes, the short version of that is yes, we would love to have some lights out there, but it is not a requirement.
So, we're closed meeting here, but would that be, I mean, you got a lot on your plate with COVID and that sort of stuff going on right now, but is that something that, you know, in the future, we could maybe get some estimates on? Maybe it's something we can afford, maybe it's something we just have to leave it the way it is.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be a real big expenditure. I'd be glad. That's an easy one. Yeah, I can get you some information on that. That's no problem at all.
Okay, well, no hurry on it, because apparently we've gone 4 years, or 3 anyway, without any lights out there, but, because I understand that the hospital does not have lights out there either, at the hospital.
Yeah, they're designated the same way we are. It's not truly a heliport without a rotating beacon, and there you're talking about a lot of money. And just, it's not really necessary for as little as we use it. But as a designated landing zone, it's semantics is all it is. But yeah, the hospital doesn't have it. Theirs is considered just a landing pad or a designated LZ as well. It's not an official FAA designation.
Okay. Well, here again, that's a very low priority thing, but somebody else asked me and I didn't know, so.
Yeah, appreciate you asking. Like I said, that's an easy one. Thank you.